If you're an online business owner and you're stuck making less than 20K a month, you're working harder than ever, you're implementing as many strategies as you can, and the needle just isn't moving and you're feeling like you're stuck, there's a reason for that, and it's probably not what you think. You don't need more content, you don't need more effort, you don't need more DMs. What we need is a new business model, because the one that we're currently working on is fundamentally broken. This is video 1 of a 6-part mini-series, and I'm going to talk about why the business model that we have right now is broken, what we can do to fix it, how we can build a new one, and how we can scale revenue without scaling complexity, without scaling a team, without scaling the hustle, the grind. More fun, more profit, more enjoyment in our business, which is effectively what we all got into this in the first place for, right? And just a quick bit of context on who I am. So I'm Dan. I spent the first 15 years of my career building and scaling tech businesses, one of which we took all the way through to an IPO on the London Stock Exchange. After doing that for 15 years, I set up my own tech business, and then after a year and a half, pivoted into business coaching, and I grew that business from 0 to multiple 7 figures of revenue. We had a team of 20 plus. We worked with over 1,000 clients around the world, and I know firsthand what it's like building a business with this broken model, because that's a playbook that we followed, what all the industry was telling us to do. And it was complicated, it was hard work. The more people we added, the more complex it got, the bigger we got, the less free time I had, the more calls that I sat on, and ultimately built a life that I wasn't starting out when I wanted to build a business and get more freedom, more profit, more revenue. So this new business model allows us to do that, and that's based on patterns I saw in my own business, patterns I saw in the hundreds of successful businesses that we worked with, and also patterns from really successful entrepreneurs and creators and business owners in different niches as well, all combined into a brand new business model that's going to allow you to scale your revenue without hustle, without sending more DMs, without hiring a massive team, without incorporating massive costs. We can do it with high margins, lots of fun, and lots of energy. So let's get started and talk about the old model, and then we'll introduce the new. Okay, I'm a firm believer that if you can't put a concept onto something that's about the size at the back of a napkin. So let's go through the current business model and why it's broken. So, and you'll have to forgive my relatively rudimentary drawing skills. So this is a seesaw, which you may remember being a kid or even as an adult. And this represents your business. And effectively what we have is we have 2 sides to the seesaw. We have acquisition and we have delivery. So when we're early on in our journey, we have very few clients. And what that means is that all of the work and energy goes on to acquisition, and typically speaking, the acquisition stack that most of us are taught and most of us use, we have some form of outbound mechanism. Now that can be connection requests on LinkedIn, following people on Instagram, sending cold DMs, sending cold emails, basically going out and tapping people on the shoulder. Could be seen as pestering, but we'll get to that later. Then what we have is we have our DMs or our emails where we're having conversations with people. And effectively, here is where all the hustle, the conversations, the getting to know people, the qualifying, the disqualifying, and of course, the fundamental reason for this is to book sales calls. And the better we do on outbound, the more DMs we send, the more DM conversations we have, the more opportunities to book more sales calls. And what drives all of this is content, which content is specifically designed to have more DMs, and more DMs is specifically designed to book more sales calls. So the content we produce, we're trying to start conversations from the content we produce. And most of us are taught, and most of us adhere to the fact that we have, this is done primarily through 1 or maybe 2 short form content channels, whether that's Instagram or whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's TikTok. And of course, this is the way that things look. Now, as we start to get more successful and we start to onboard more clients, what naturally happens is our seesaw tips, because we have more clients and we have less time to spend on outbound, DMs, calls, and content. So we become more inconsistent with the things that are driving the business. And then what happens is, because we can't spend the time doing outbound, doing all of the DMs, having all of the sales calls, creating the content, what then happens is we move back from this model to this model, and then this to this, and we just get stuck in this cycle between these two worlds, and it becomes very difficult to get out of the situation between the two seesaws. And depending on what type of business you have, and depending on how much revenue you charge per client, this typically ends up getting people stuck between 5K and 20K per month. And the one thing that we just don't have as much of, we just don't have the time. If we had more hours in a day, we could keep sending more outbound, keep having all of these conversations, keep 30, 40 conversations going, keep having 1 or 2 sales calls a day, keep working hard and creating more content, and also managing an increasing level of clients. And because we don't have the time to invest in making our delivery as efficient as we can, and we don't have the time to make sure we're working on the right things when it comes to acquisition. So this is the model that is fundamentally broken. And one way to get out of this model, and this is the way that I got out of this model, is by hiring a team. So we add more people to our business, but then what happens is we take this inefficient, broken model and we just add more people to it. And what that means is that nothing really gets fixed. We just have success coaches, we have setters, we have closers, and effectively we build an entire team. And I'm going to talk through this in a separate video on how I did this and how I scaled to a team of 20 plus, and how that actually made my day even worse than it was back at the beginning when I was doing it this way. So this is the old model, and this is why it's broken. So what do we want to do? If we want to fundamentally change this, how do we go about that? And the way that we do that is we introduce a very, very different system. Firstly, we identify what are the biggest time sucks and what are the tasks that are repetitive, but they're not leveraged tasks. Sales calls, DMs, outbound. Number one, very few people enjoy doing this. Very few people enjoy having this done to them. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of admin around it. There's a lot of resistance to doing it as well. And fundamentally, it just eats up a huge portion of our day. So we need to create a system that gets rid of this. And the way that we do that, how do we get rid of sales calls? We introduce what we call gravitational marketing. And the way gravitational marketing works is that we focus on high leverage compounding marketing activities that effectively remove the need from a sales call. I'm going to cover this on a video, I think it's on the 4th video in this series, and we're going to go into detail on how we do this. But just in a nutshell, short form is not enough content for people to be able to build trust and make a decision to come and work with us. We must introduce a long form channel, whether that be a podcast or YouTube, so people can spend more time on brand. And then we also want to add in email. And no, I don't mean a newsletter full of updates. I mean an email system, because ultimately this is the only database that you will own. Everything else will be on social media. So this email list will be yours to own. So we're going to do a really good job of making sure that our email list, with a very high open rate, with very high intent potential buyers, is going to be linking with our long form content. And then that's going to be linking with our short form content. And we're going to create what we call a content trifecta between these 3 styles of content. And don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. I'm going to run through exactly how this works in a following video. So once we've done that and we have people in our orbit who get to know us and they want to buy our services, how do we get rid of the sales call? Well, we get rid of the sales call by doing what we call invitations to land. And there's loads of different ways we can do this. And again, there's a video that goes into this exclusively, but we need to give people a peek behind the curtain, understand what it's going to be like working with us, and then invite them in. And we're going to go into that, like I said, in more detail in a separate video, but that's effectively how we get rid of sales calls. And then once someone starts to work with us, how do we get rid of this feeling of, well, now I've got more clients, I don't have enough time to do anything else? And this is where we can really leverage on AI, not to replace the things that require human connection with our clients, but to replace all of the things that are monotonous, that are data, that are tasks that can be outsourced. And we want to do that, so we do what we call leveraged delivery, meaning we can give clients a personalized custom experience that doesn't require loads of our time, loads of calls, and eventually loads of team members. At our peak, Fortis, we had 8 success coaches, and I'm going to come on to it when I talk about what the impact is of that, but it becomes a very, very different business and a difficult business to build and run. What we want to have is, with just you, or maybe one, or a tiny team, being able to manage many, many, many clients, give them a better experience, give them a better plan and a better structure, and you can do it by making sure that you're able to have more time. What this model does is it gives us time, because we focus on high leverage marketing activities that compound over time. We're not spending all of our time chasing leads, having DM conversations, booking sales calls, training team members, all of that. We get rid of all of that so we can focus on quality content that brings people in, invitations to land that are massively scalable and not done on a one-to-one basis. And then we've got a leverage way that we do delivery, so we don't have to spend loads of time with each client holding their hand, making sure that they get results. We can do that in a systemized way that doesn't remove the human element to it. Now, this is the new model that we want to build, and this model is the one that we can use to scale past 20K, past 30K, past 50K, past 100K with a very small team, even just with one person and maybe a VA, and you can still have time, you can still work 3-4 days a week. It is totally possible in this model, but it's a very, very different way of looking at the world, and we have to turn our back on this old model that's causing us these problems. And that's the new model. So over the next 5 videos, I'm going to show you exactly how to implement this into your business. Starting off with video 2, where we're going to talk about your clients and the importance of quality, and how chasing leads around the internet is bringing you the wrong clients. The best clients always arrive ready, pre-sold. They become your best case studies, they refer, and they're just more fun to work with. That is the second stage on the back of a napkin. See me in video 2, and I'm going to walk through exactly how we attract those types of clients.